Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Thomas Brush and I make indie games for a living. I'm really happy you could join me today. I want to show you how we're going to create a beautiful summer Austrian landscape. I think it looks Austrian. Maybe you could tell me in the comments. Let's go. All right, let's fill in the background with that sky color, right? All right, so let's use the polygon lasso tool and just create some beautiful mountains in the background. We're going to fill that in using that color right there. Good. And let's just go forward. And let's just move forward towards the camera using that same logic. All right, maybe one more layer here using that very vibrant green. So this is the actual ground that the player can walk on. We're just gonna pick that greenish yellow. There we go. All right, we're gonna add shadows between all the layers here. The reason why is because right now they're kind of blending in with each other. It kind of looks like one giant gradient. So I'm going to do this. Good. Very subtle. Same is true with this. Very subtle. Same with this. Very subtle. Almost. Got it. Good. Okay. And then one more. And probably pull this one up just a little and drop it down just like that. Very subtle. Now let's add a little bit of a foreground element. I kind of like to do it in the opposite angle of the actual ground the player can walk on. I think that makes it look a little bit more interesting. And one thing I want to add here is the bushes or some element behind the actual ground that the player can walk on. Now, why am I doing this? The reason is because I want the player to know for certain what they can walk on, okay? There's a variety of ways of doing this. In my case, I'm literally going to just add some detailed, well, bushes here. They could be stones, they could be really anything. But all they're gonna do is sort of highlight and add some contrast to the actual ground the player can walk on. Now, here's the thing. We don't want them to be as dark as the foreground, so let's maybe lighten them up just a little bit. Maybe something like that. So I'm going to take this red, I'm going to take the pencil tool, and using the circle, just add some berries to those bushes, right? Nothing too complicated here. Awesome. All right, let's throw in some clouds really quickly here. And just make some clouds. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. It's always fun creating these clouds. Once you finish up this simplistic artwork, believe it or not, you can just take these sprites and drag it into my 2D game kit. Now, this is actually just a free game kit. I'm not going to charge you for it. Click below. It's totally free. And you can download that 2D game kit and take artwork like we're working on right now and just throw it into Unity and get it working and have a 2D game ready to go. Believe it or not, I used this game kit to make a game for PewDiePie in 14 days. So the game kit actually speeds things up a lot, and I'm always about that. Feel free to click below. One of my favorite things to do is just add some trees to every single layer. Now, we don't want to make a ton of trees, but just enough to make it look detailed. So I can go to my brush tool here, and you'll see that I've actually created a pine tree tool. Look, I can create some pine trees. Well, we don't want them to be white. Let's make them this green color here. I'm going to scale them down just a little bit. Okay, and then finally, let's start adding in some grass on this ground layer. And I'm going to actually use my grass brush that I created. It's just this simple burst of blades that I can start painting in the scene like this. What I like to do is go to my brush settings and basically just go to my shape dynamics here, increase the angle jitter, right? A little bit of size jitter and roundness jitter. And that's gonna make things look a little bit more random, okay? Great, okay. All right, now that we've got our grass, let's go ahead and start adding shadows to the scene. This is going to make things really pop. I can't wait to show you this. So here's the grass, I'm going to actually just on top of it add in a shadow. Well, how do I know which direction the shadow should go? Well, let's just assume that the sun is coming from the top left-hand corner, and maybe we'll even draw it in just a second. So I'm going to take my polygon lasso tool and try and mimic what those bushes, what kind of shadow they would create. Okay. Then I'm going to take my gradient tool and just pull down like that, and then I'm going to add a little bit of a motion blur, and that motion blur is going to simulate the shadow slowly dissipating away. Beautiful. Okay, let's drop down the opacity here. Awesome, that looks really, really cool. Now the same is true with all of the background elements as well. Well, what about these trees here? If the sun is coming from the top left-hand corner, well, we'd have shadows that look kind of like this. Looks pretty good. Kind of like it like that. And we're going to drop the opacity down like this. And I think towards the bottom here, we can even add in a little bit of a shadow like this. Sweet, there we go. That looks great. We drop that down just a little bit. That looks great. Let's use that same logic on these trees back here as well. Now we can start adding shadows to the hills themselves as well, just to simulate texture, depth, and maybe a little bit of warping occurring. So I can just do something like this, honestly. Do a little bit of a gradient, and then decrease the opacity. That looks pretty cool. We could do the same with this one right here. And all I'm doing is just mimicking how the ground looks, but just varying it just a little bit so it looks 3D. Awesome, one there, and why not put one here as well? It's really up to you when you want to start losing detail. I kind of recommend once you hit the second to last background element, you get really subtle with your shadowing. Really, really subtle. See that? We could probably get away with adding one here on this final background element, but it's really up to you. Just kind of guess and check. It's totally okay, guys, to not know exactly what looks perfect, well, until you try, right? And I'm still, after 15 years of doing artwork for video games, I still am not quite sure what looks perfect. Save out our scene here, and now we can start adding highlights to our scene as well. Convert everything on the bushes to a smart object, then create an inner shadow here. Great, that looks really, really cool. And then I'm gonna do another inner shadow, and this one's gonna be more crisp, okay? So now we have this highlight inner shadow for the bushes. That looks really, really cool. Same is true with the background hills. All right, something I want to do is add a big pine tree to this scene. I think with any piece of artwork, it's really important to throw in sort of that one object that you look at first, that beautiful object. And I think a giant pine tree right about here would be a good idea. And also, why not throw in a stone using the same color as the bushes? And all you gotta do with stones is just mask out using the grass. See? This is gonna blow your mind. Well, I know it did for me when I learned how to do this. It was so cool. All right. There we go. Let's throw in a sun. Okay, this is actually going to probably make the scene look maybe 20 times better, okay? Games like Alto's Adventure do this really, really well. What they do is they just create a sun. Let's see here. Drop the opacity down just a little bit. Although, to be honest, we could probably just do this. Yeah. So I'm going to blur the smart object of these clouds just like this. Oh, that looks great. I'm going to make a smart object of these background trees. Do a subtle blur as well. Again, I can change this later if I really want to. Let's blur the sun as well. I'm going to go to pexels.com and get a free texture. I think this paper texture looks cool. I really like using this one. You guys have probably noticed I've used this for a lot of my games. I'm going to set it to overlay. Drop down the scale. Okay. Drop down the opacity significantly. You just want a very subtle texture, nothing crazy. Good, okay. And then I'm going to add just a subtle color balance here. Just tweaking the colors just a little bit. And then one final thing that I love to do is add a subtle hue shift, probably usually in the top left-hand corner or top right-hand corner of my scenes. Something like this. I'm going to go to my pencil tool here. I'm going to take that red. I'm going to sign my name. It's kind of hard using a mouse, but hey, not that bad, right? All right, guys, that's my beautiful Austrian landscape. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned a lot, it would mean a ton to me if you click the like button, subscribed, hit the notification bell to get notified of my next upload, and leave a comment if you enjoyed this video, or maybe you have some things you want to teach me. I'd love to learn. By the way, if you want to get that 2D game kit, it's totally free. Click below. That 2D game kit is going to be able to take the artwork that you create, bring those sprites into Unity, and create a game so much faster. Believe it or not, I used this exact game kit to make a game for PewDiePie in 14 days, and then I got to play it with him in front of his audience. That was a really cool day. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Take it easy.